2024 Wise Guys is here live from our secret location here in Provo. Happy New Year. We are excited to be back. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler. We've been recorded the last couple of weeks because it was Christmas Day and then it was New Year's Day. And now it is January 8th. The week of January 8th, for those listening on our podcast, we encourage everybody to jump on our live stream. We got a good show tonight, a chance to answer some questions, make some comments, but certainly let us know where you're watching. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler. The #1 BYU Sports live stream show in the world is The Wise Guys, and we got a huge year ahead.
Yeah, and make sure, hey, if you haven't already, make sure you follow us on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat here shortly. Hit the subscribe button because it's free. We're also live on Facebook, Twitch, and you can find everything you need at ysguys.com. All the links that you need.
It's like a Costco.
Yeah,
or a Super Target.
It's got everything you need.
You want clothes and a watermelon, you can get that.
And make sure you subscribe there because if you subscribe at wiseguys.com, you get a weekly email with highlights and that kind of stuff on it. You get it from the show. All the past interviews are there, including folks like Steve Young and Danny Ainge and Wally Joyner, Marie Osmond, Jimmer Fredette, Kyle Van Noy, Sherry Dew, you name it, they're on there. The best guest list of any show in Utah, period. Of any format.
Bar none.
Best guest list, bar none. And that's all there for you. Highlights, full shows, all of it's there at ysguys.com. And more importantly, whenever we got something going on, you'll get an email update.
Right out of the gate, Richard, in from Panama tonight. Roberts from Ridgecrest, California, in with us. Dr. Ruthie is still hanging in. Farmington's in the house, and it was so cool to have everyone there. There's Drummond, Montana, in tonight, and
Robert
keep them coming.
There you go, from Ridgecrest, California.
Keep it coming, yeah.
Hey, the Philippines. Glenn says, welcome from the sunny Philippines. Glenn, just so you know, you may know this, we're expecting snow every day through the weekend. Every day through the weekend in Utah. So enjoy that sun down in the Philippines. Maybe we need to come join you down there.
And we don't have commercials. Thank you, BYU Sports Addict. We don't. This is straight doctrine.
Right.
It's straight Wise Guys doctrine. Big show tonight. BYU signs an experienced quarterback with a history of running an RPO offense. We're going to dive right into that one.
Yeah, which Aaron Roderick talked about during this last season, that really to run the offense that he wants to run to its fullest, he wants guys that are a run threat, that are dual threat, basically, can run that run-pass option, that can run the zone read and run all of that to be the most effective that they can be. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We also want you to know that Jonathan Tavernari is going to be right here.
Right here.
Sitting right next to me.
He's always got a lot to say.
A legendary three-point shooter is here to talk about BYU's three-point shooting in the wake of Saturday night's defeat.
Man.
Despite 9 three-pointers by Trevin now.
He was on fire.
He didn't break the record, but I think if he plays 5 more minutes, he breaks the record.
He was on fire. And where was he during those 5 minutes? We're going to talk about that. And you know who's got an opinion about that? Jonathan Tavernari. So that's coming up.
Jonathan will not be afraid to give his opinion.
Baseball coach Trent Pratt is going to be right there as well, live in our studio.
Right, he'll be right here too.
Cougars
right here.
Are getting ready to open practice for their first Big 12 baseball season, and so we're excited to have Trent Pratt with us. He said he is looking forward to coming in. Last year we had him on Zoom.
That's right.
And tonight he's coming in the house.
Well,
so
and at least tonight, the snow doesn't start till later tonight. So they can make it up to our undisclosed location, but we're giving you a little info. It's on a hill.
It is.
And so it's not good when it snows for our guests to come in.
No, but the forecast is good.
You and I have, well, you don't have a four-wheel drive.
I just live around. I got all-wheel, but I just live around the corner.
And I see you got your all-wheel drive back. You've been driving another car the last few weeks.
Well, it's because there was a situation.
Yeah, Dave had a situation where he was driving, and his drivetrain he just dropped the drivetrain.
It just blew up right on I-15.
How does that even happen?
I don't know, but it was awful. I'm lucky to be alive, as is my wife. But it's all fixed and better now.
Hey, Glenn says their white powder is the beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, white powder sand. I could use some of that and not the stuff I need to actually shovel.
No.
So
let's jump into some headlines, and let's start with BYU football. Former South Florida and Baylor quarterback Gary Bohannon made it official. He transferred to BYU. We heard he's coming the last few weeks.
And we've been
check and make sure he had some eligibility.
And just so you know, because of this being an unaffiliated show, really,
yeah,
we've been talking about Bohannon because we knew he was coming, and we acknowledged that he had not committed. It's official now. He is coming.
There was a little bit of a hang-up that, he's in his 7th year.
Right.
Just like Cam Rising at Utah. And they had to make sure that, hey, before you transfer here, do you have a year of eligibility?
Right, because that would have been bad for him.
We don't need a guy on the sideline. We need a guy perhaps on the field. Let's talk about him for a moment. And we're going to get into some basketball facts and then get right to Jonathan Tavernari.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's a big guy, but very athletic. And BYU, remember that he played against them when he was at Baylor in that Big 12 Conference Championship team. 6'3" and 211 pounds. So very athletic. He can run what we just talked about, being able to run the RPO, being able to run that zone read. He's got a big arm and can make all the throws, but he can also really hurt you with his feet running the ball. They tried to get him before he transferred to South Florida to back up Jaron Hall, but he wasn't interested in being a backup.
Which would have been interesting.
Right. So take us through his history so everybody understands how he has this 7th year and where he's come from. You've got this down.
So first of all, this will put it in some perspective. He started college when Zach Wilson started college.
And Zach's about to get traded from the Jets in his third year. Right?
3 years. So 2018, he redshirted at Baylor. 2019, redshirt freshman. Then 2020 was COVID.
Doesn't count.
So that didn't count. 2021, he was part of Baylor's 12-win season. They beat BYU. He beat BYU 38-24. Got injured in the game just before the Big 12 championship game. Didn't play in that, but he got Baylor to that game, and then he played in the Sugar Bowl and beat Ole Miss.
Right.
So he's got some wins under his belt in big situations. Jeff Grimes was the offensive coordinator, and where did Jeff Grimes learn to be an offensive coordinator when Aaron Roderick was the offensive coordinator while Jeff Grimes was allegedly the offensive coordinator.
Right, exactly. I like how you said that, allegedly.
2022, he transferred to South Florida. BYU opened the season to South Florida. If you remember, that's the game Puka Nacua got hurt.
Yeah.
After he took the first play, 75 yards for a touchdown. Got a medical red shirt for 2023 with an injured shoulder. And 2024 has transferred to BYU. So that is the genealogy from 2018 to now in 2024. But his numbers also support the fact that when healthy, and he apparently is healthy now.
And just so everybody knows, we have heard that BYU had a chance to see him work out to make sure that shoulder could make a volume of throws and could still make all the throws just like when he was a fully healthy quarterback. And the answer is, yeah, he looked really, really good. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken this chance on him. He's thrown for over 3,400 yards and 26 touchdowns, and he's rushed for over 1,000 yards. Hence the dual threat moniker.
Dual threat moniker. That's one thing that Keaton Slovis didn't have. Remember, Keaton threw for 11,000 yards, but he wasn't a runner.
Right.
And they also signed 6'3" quarterback Trayson Bourget from Central Michigan.
That's right.
And he comes in as a sophomore.
Yeah, and it's what I like is that he has 3 years of eligibility. Remember, I said I wasn't that thrilled with a one-and-done guy.
Right.
Now Gary, I don't know. We're going to see if he's 100% healthy and can play the way he did, because I really believe his issue has not been a decline in his play. It's been injuries.
Yeah.
If he's truly 100%, he's probably the one-and-done guy that can really help, right? Especially with his ability to run the football. I'm actually really intrigued by Bourget because he does have 3 years of eligibility and comes in and is going to compete. And remember that on the roster still, there's Jake Retzlaff, who started games down the stretch for BYU. There's Cade Finnegan, and there's Ryder Burton. They're all back on this roster.
So what does this mean? What is it? If you're one of those 3 and you see Bohannon sign, and then you see Bourget sign, what are you thinking if you're Jake?
Is the message, or if you're Cade, or are you going, whoa, do these guys not believe in me? And this is this juggling act that happens in college football. It's the one position where you only have one guy that plays typically, and you have to recruit right over the top of those guys every year because you just don't know who's going to turn out and who's going to get hurt. And you have to have a couple of them that can both play, right? We've learned that. BYU's learned that. Yeah. Utah learned it sadly last year. Right, they were not even close without their guy.
Every team in America, it seems, lost their quarterback for a while at least.
So you got to recruit right over the top, and the message it's sending, and as coaches like Aaron Roderick and this group of offensive coaches they've got to tell these guys the message that hey, this doesn't mean that the job's not yours. We didn't promise anybody, because I can tell you they didn't promise Bohannon. They didn't promise Bourget. They didn't promise anybody the job. They haven't promised Jake Retzlaff the job. They didn't promise it to him last year when he came out of JC as the #1 junior college recruit in the country. And so they're saying there's going to be a competition. You're going to push each other, and whoever's the best guy and gives us the best chance to win is going to start. And if somebody goes, well, if I'm not the starter, I'm out. You don't want that guy anyhow.
Yeah, but you wonder if Jake thought maybe, hey, I played 4 games. Didn't win any of them, but I played 4 games.
If he'd have won 4 games, they wouldn't have gone and recruited these guys.
If he'd have beat Oklahoma, the narrative, and I wrote about it today in the Deseret News at Deseret.com. If he'd have beat Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, there would have been a bowl game, and the narrative would be totally different.
If he beats Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, and then he wins a bowl game, we wouldn't even be having this discussion, because I don't think BYU might have gotten an insurance guy, but they wouldn't have been saying, hey, we've got this thing's up for grabs, everybody's competing. Because he had a chance to play, and there were still questions, and there's a glimpse of what he might be able to be if he can take care of the football. He is dynamic.
Yeah.
He has an arm, he can really sling it. But can he consistently perform and take care of the football? They don't know that yet. He didn't prove that.
No, and all of a sudden, spring football just got really, really interesting.
Spring football just got fun.
Every day is going to be fascinating to see who's ahead in the race.
Yeah. And competition is a good thing. Competition is a good thing.
Hey, Evan from Laramie, Wyoming's got the Wise Guys tonight.
Yeah, hey,
That's
Laramie.
That's a first for us, Laramie, Wyoming.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Fantastic, Evan. Thank you.
Evan, because we realize there's a lot of folks up in Wyoming that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints that don't necessarily like BYU.
No.
And they love them some Cowboys.
Evan, I hope you're going to be at War Memorial on September 14th when the Cougars come over.
Here's the thing.
There.
Evan's middle name is Nephi.
Yeah, well, I know, but
this is his team.
It's serious business.
BYU is his team. So
it's serious business.
Yes,
over there.
Yes, it is.
The Big 12 schedule, we think, could be released next week.
Yeah.
They said middle of January, and next week we're in the middle of January, even later this week.
Which will be really interesting. I mean, remember, BYU had one of the toughest, when the season was all said and done, BYU had one of the toughest schedules in the country last year. I mean, you just expect you're going to have one of the toughest in the country in basketball. Yeah. If you're in the league, you're going to have one of the toughest in the But for football, because you don't play everybody, there's a chance that you maybe have a little bit easier schedule in terms of home and away. Or you could have a really difficult one. So we're really anxious to see how this thing plays out, especially with Oklahoma and Texas gone now. Who do they play and how does it go?
Yeah, so. and who do we open with? And,
right.
And we know who's coming, and we know where BYU's going. We just don't know the dates, but we might find that out this week. So hang with us. We'll keep you posted on that. Spring practice, March 1st. That's just around the corner. We got NFL playoffs, and then we got the Super Bowl, and then we can get into spring practice.
Yeah, exactly. And then the alumni game. We're going to be involved in that again, right? We're going to call that again? Yeah. You and I going to call that?
Right now it's in discussion as far as what day to hold it on.
Yeah, what to
sometime
have.
in April, I imagine.
But nobody's talked to me. They just assume that we're just going to do whatever they ask us to do, and Max, which is probably true.
We expect Max Hall to miraculously recover.
Completely rehab from that Achilles. He says he's going to be ready to go.
And be joining us. We're looking forward to that. We'll keep you posted on that. The season opener against Southern Illinois is 33 weeks from Saturday.
Yes.
We're in the calendar year, 33 weeks from Saturday.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff.
Let's talk basketball. The rankings out today. BYU's 12-2. They're 0-1 in the Big 12. The Net has them at 4.
Yeah.
AP top 25 today has them at 18. They dropped 6 spots.
Yeah. Coaches poll has them at number 17. Ken Palm still has them at 9. So the analytics metrics that they lean heavily on, Net is the number 1 metric that they use. Ken Palm's also used, is still favorable for them. That's the beauty of being in this league, and you've talked about that in one of the articles that you wrote. That, hey, welcome to the Big 12. You can lose a game and not fall off the face of the earth, right? And then Joe Lunardi has them as a 3 seed. He lists BYU Baylor as one of the 5 most intriguing games of the week,
which is tomorrow night.
And as you and I were saying, BYU's the kind of team, because they're so heavily relying on shooting, that if they have an off shooting night, they could lose to anybody in the league. But on an on shooting night, they go out and shoot 45% from 3, 48 to 50% from the field, which they're capable of doing. They can beat anybody in the league. If they struggle and go 9 minutes without scoring, they can lose to anybody in the league. And
absolutely.
Get used to that this year, and especially, and we're going to talk more about it with Jonathan Tavernari when we bring him on in a minute, but especially if Foose doesn't get healthy real fast, where they have an inside presence where when teams go and press on them outside and really push up on them and don't help down because they're not worried about an inside presence, it's tough because you don't get a lot of good looks from the outside. So they got to figure out something.
It was an interesting opener against Cincinnati. Full house, not quite a sellout, but enough to make a whole lot of noise. BYU looked okay in the first half. They're up 7 at the break.
They're shooting it. Trevin was shooting it.
At moments, they looked like a top 10 team in that first half. But in the second half, Cincinnati played better and beat them 71-60. Cougars shot 13 of 46 from the three-point line. Uncharacteristic of them, 4 of 32 from the guys not named Trevin. Trevin made 9 3-pointers, one shy of the school record. After his 9-3, went to the bench. With 10:30 left, Cincinnati was up by 2. He stayed on the bench till 4:33 to go, and Cincinnati
I can't wait to talk to Jonathan about that.
61-53. We wonder, was it a mistake? I asked Mark Pope in the post-game interview on BYU TV if Nell had stayed on the bench too long, if it was part of the rotation. He said no, and then he didn't give much of an answer after that. He wasn't in the mood to do that, and talked about how valuable Trevin was and all of that. What Cougar Nation wanted to know was why, but he wasn't quite ready to give the why.
Well, they hoisted up 46 threes, and they made 28% of them. Remember, we've talked all year about the goal is to shoot 38% or higher and to shoot around 35 a game. That's what Mark wants to do. If you're 38% or higher, you're typically top 20 in the country in three-point percentage shooting at 38 or higher. If you're going to shoot that many, you want to be top 20 in the country. And that's if you consistently do that, that's a successful plan to be able to go do that. But you can't shoot 28.2%.
No.
And you can't shoot 32.9 from the field.
And they got out-rebounded for the first time.
I'll say there is one bright side. This team does have the energy and defense, and they do try to rebound. They didn't rebound as well as they did at Utah. But you and I have talked about this. We talked about it a little earlier today. Last couple of years, teams shoots 28% from 3 and 32 from the field. They lose to Cincinnati by 30 points. Last couple of years, team goes up to Utah and shoots as miserably as they did there. They don't have the ball in the last possession with a chance to win because those teams didn't play defense the way this one does, and those teams didn't get after it on the offensive glass and get extra opportunities the way this one does. So they lose an 11-point game and shoot it just absolutely horribly. I'm going to take a good out of that for this game because that's where they are better than last year. They would get killed in games like that against teams as good as Cincinnati last year.
Fousseyni Traore made his return since that injury on the day after Thanksgiving against North Carolina State. He played just 8 minutes, had 1.2 rebounds. He wasn't ready to play.
No,
he just wasn't ready to go.
That was the disappointing thing for me because maybe I misinterpreted as we've been watching the last couple of weeks. I thought the idea was he's going to have a full week of practice. We're not going to play him in the Wyoming game, but he did practice the week before a little bit. He's going to have a full week of everything. He's going to be ready to go against Cincinnati. I didn't realize that ready to go was to get limited minutes and to play himself back into being able to play because he did not look effective when he was in there. And honestly, with 100% Foose, who demands a double team when you throw it to him down the post, that takes pressure off of your perimeter shooters. It forces them to get into rotations. Now you can quickly share the basketball and move the ball around and you can get open looks. When you're not worried about him down low and you can single him up and you can hesitate to go to the double and you can stay on shooters and you can be there on the catch, it changes the game in terms of your ability to shoot. And I mean, the other answer to that is, well, then put the ball on the floor and take it off the bounce and go attack, which is what Cincinnati does. That's how they get to the free throw line. But this team's really not built that way to be great at playing on attack and taking it off the dribble. It would be really nice to have Foose at 100%. I will say that a Foose at 100%, like at his peak, as good as he was last year with his full vertical and his ability to score one-on-one, changes the way Cincinnati can defend BYU, and there's a different outcome. But he's not healthy, and it looks like he may be a few weeks away.
Yeah, and he might be healthy, just rusty.
And that could be the case, so we'll see.
Dawson Baker played just 2 minutes. He seems destined for a medical redshirt year.
Which is too bad because he is a guy that can take it off the dribble.
Yeah.
And get into the...
He'll be a starter next year.
It's interesting. Do you remember every game we ever did when TJ Haws was playing? And people make fun of TJ. Let me tell you this about TJ Haws. Every time we did a game, which was, I don't know how many games we did that TJ played in. You and I probably did
quite a few of them.
60 or 70 games that he played in.
Yeah.
Every single coach, when we started with the opponent, said, well, the first thing we got to do is we got to figure out a way to stay in front of TJ Haws. because you can't stay in front of him. No matter what we do, he will take you off the dribble. He will get by. He will get into your interior and get us into rotations, which kills us when we have to get into rotations. Can't stay in front of that guy. That's a huge talent to be able to break down a defense. And BYU, I mean, they have some guys. Richie Saunders is a guy that maybe can do that. Dallin Hall needs to be a guy that can do that, but he's got to make shots. Maybe we settle a little bit too much. BYU did in that game the other night. Did you shoot jump shots and didn't play an attack enough? But a TJ Haws type mentality where you're going to push up on me, fine. I will go by you. I will get into the interior. You will have to help to get to me, and then I will find an open guy, and then we'll move the ball, and somebody's going to get an open shot. I didn't see that the other night.
Baylor is tomorrow night, Tuesday night. They're 12-2, 1-0 in the Big 12. 7 p.m. Mountain Time on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio. They're 14th in the AP Top 25 and the coaches poll, and they're number 15 in the net. Beat Oklahoma State and Stillwater on Saturday in overtime, 75-70. Caleb Lohner is on the Bears. He didn't play much the other night, but he'll reunite with BYU. We'll have more on them in a moment. Let's bring in our first guest. He knows all about three-point shooting.
Yes, he does.
Remains number 2 all-time at BYU at 202 of them. Also number 2 with 535 attempts. That one does not surprise us at all. It's our pleasure to welcome Jonathan Tavernari to the Wise Guys. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me, guys. I always watch it, and fun to be a part of it this week. So.
Well, you're a headliner tonight, so let's get after it. What do you think
We're
of these?
excited to get your thoughts, and we know you will give us your thoughts.
These 12-2 Cougars. And by the way, you were great on BYU TV.
Yeah, we love having you on there.
Fun.
We're glad to have you.
We love having you on that with us.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't know if you guys have announced he had the CougarBoard question. And
Well, that
so
one's
on.
coming up in just a bit.
Yeah. I think that's the question in everybody's mind. Why the heck did Trevin sit for so long? And the one thing, after watching the game, knowing Mark, seeing this team, I would say that he wanted to get Jackson going. That's my personal feeling. Because doing that stretch, right? And I mean, you guys are the pros, and you guys were there calling the game. Jackson was the main one getting shots up during the break. Dallin did too. But I think that they were trying to get Jackson going because we haven't really seen him much. I mean, the Wyoming game, it wasn't very good.
Since his sprained ankle, he's been a little quiet.
It's too bad because he was, I mean, think about it, Jonathan. We had, what game did we do right before Wyoming?
Bellarmine?
Yeah, Bellarmine's coach said, that could be the best shooter in the country right there. He's talking about Jackson Robinson. He was playing with so much confidence, and at 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, it's hard to contest his shot.
Oh, yeah.
And so he goes down with that ankle injury, then he sits, and he hasn't been quite right ever since then. So what do you do to get a guy like that right again?
And if you guys remember, just to add to that, Blaine, they were taught, I mean, Jonathan Givney from Draft Express, it was giving him a lot of love and saying, hey, you know, you might be a late bloomer on next year's draft or the year after that. And so what do? I think that's what Mark was trying to do, which is, you know, we need him, maybe get him going. But the ankle is tricky. Because especially with basketball and your first lateral movement, everything starts on your feet and your footwork. And so to me, you know, I'm very close to Trevin.
Yeah.
You know, we've worked together before, working on his shooting and different tips and so on. It was surprising to have him be on the bench for that long. Again, my personal opinion, obviously, you know, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Looking back, you should have never taken him out. I personally wouldn't have. As a shooter, whenever I got going, I never wanted to come off the floor. I mean, you drag me off the floor until I can't shoot anymore. But I think what Mark was doing is trying to get Jackson Robinson going because we need him, right? And to me, that's what he was trying to do, and it wasn't very successful.
They need both to be good in this league. They need both of those guys to go off, right?
Right, absolutely. And to me, the saddest thing was, you know, and with the people around me, I said, we're going to waste a career night. I mean, he could have had as many threes as Chase Fisher.
He was just one short.
Yeah, I was looking at Jackson. So 27 minutes, Jonathan.
Jackson wasn't right. He wasn't right.
He
was 2 of 7 from the field.
Yeah.
And 1 of 5 from 3. 2 rebounds. Just didn't look right.
No, and again, right?
He's better than that.
And I think that his flow, his rhythm, right? I mean, you're talking about all of the accolades and things that we're saying to him. He was on fire. I mean, he was, on a trajectory that was unbelievable. And so what I think it happened is Mark wanted to go with Jackson to see if he could kind of like, when you're pushing a car that the battery's kind of, funky, see if he could kind of like, push him into ignition.
To get him jump started.
Yeah, but it just didn't work out. And when you look at the numbers, BYU got out rebounded, which hasn't happened a lot this year. And 18 turnovers.
Yeah.
And I coach my little boys team, and what I say is I would rather you jack up a shot backwards rather than you turn the ball over. Because if you're turning the ball over, you're not getting a chance to shoot it, to score the baskets. And then, you mentioned Dawson. I think that Dawson's minutes were a byproduct of Trey not playing well. Trey was there for 4 minutes.
I don't think Dawson was going to play at all.
I don't think so either.
I think he's good. What's happened with Dawson is, they have a certain amount of time to decide whether they're going to medically redshirt him. And every time he plays extended minutes, the foot hurts the next day. And it's just like he's too much of a talent to nurse the injury all year long. It's like, okay, he's not far enough removed from having that thing fixed. If he can't go full go, let's sit him this year, and then you bring him back. And he's a really gifted with the ball in his hand, can create for himself, is strong, reliable free throw shooter. And we'll go score through contact. And then you bring back Colin Chandler with him, and now you got something. So I'm with you, Dave. I think they've maybe not officially made the decision yet, but I think they're going.
And to add to that, I think that look at Trevin. I mean, Trev had a great season, before, and then he redshirted last year. All of us were like, is he going to redshirt? Is this real? Is this legit? He ended up doing it. Look at the year he's having this year. And then to be able to bring in Colin in a way that you don't have to throw him to the wolves at the first 5-10 games of the season.
Right.
I think that's the right decision to make. But even 5 for 10 for the free throw line, BYU shot 50% from the free throw line.
Yeah. People were saying to me today, oh, this is ridiculous, Cincinnati. And I said, guys, that's not on the ref. Cincinnati played on attack. They turned downhill. They went to the front of the rim. They got fouled. BYU just threw the ball around the perimeter and jacked up 3-pointers. They shot 45 of them. Yeah. You're not going to get fouled shooting 45 free throws. So am I surprised that BYU shot 10? Not a bit. That's not on the officials.
Cincinnati was the aggressors the entire time. And the one thing, we've always, everybody has said, you guys have said it during pregame and so on, if BYU can finish in the top half of the Big 12, they are locked for the NCAA.
9-9 is my goal for them.
But
for the season.
Here's the trick to that, and I thought that was feasible too. But now you have to make up a game.
Yeah, because that's the game you should have won.
You were counting on that 9-9. You were counting with a win.
Maybe you get it tomorrow night against Baylor.
Because here's what I think is going to happen. I think they'll go get a makeup one because they're gonna go out and shoot 45 from 3 and 52 from the field in a game on the road against a team that they are not supposed to have any chance to beat, and they'll just beat them because they'll and then they may lose another one that they're not supposed to lose because they're going to shoot 28 and they're going to. Unfortunately, when this is the style you play with, you're going to have a bad shooting night once in a while. I do appreciate
you live by the 3 and you die by the 3.
I do appreciate that they play such good defense and typically are so good on the offensive glass because they had the ball on last possession against Utah, even though they shot it miserably, which says something.
And 71 points scored against, suffered. That's not bad.
Yes.
35 points. That's what Wyoming scored. Right. That's a not bad defense. Unfortunately, at the end of the day,
it wasn't working on the other.
No, it wasn't. And Trevin, it's always interesting to me because I know in a coach's mind he's got some rotations. Like, man, and Mark has a lot of guys.
Right.
He's got like 10 guys. Like, I got to get these guys in. I want to have everybody engaged. We're going to play this guy, then we're going to sit him. We're going to do this, trying to get Jackson going. Yeah. But at some point, does an assistant coach walk over and go, Coach, do not take him out until he misses a shot? Like, he's just made 9. Let's just milk it. I know we're supposed to go to this. Let's just milk it. And let's play him till he misses. And maybe he makes 3 more.
Yeah. And maybe I should have yelled louder.
Yes.
Well, there were a lot of groans. So, hey, put Nell in. Yeah. Let me tell you, we're going to talk to Trent Pratt about last year Luke Anderson hit 3 home runs and 3 at-bats. And he sent him up a 4th time. And then he almost hit that one out. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the hot bats stay in. The hot hands stay in. But on this case, and I thought Nell might have been gassed when he went to the bench. He'd been playing a lot.
Did you think so?
I just wasn't sure. But then he stayed there, and that was
well, and here's the thing. Like, it's interesting because Mark's been asked, and they've just said, no, there were some things we were trying to do, which I'm sure they were. But even no matter what you say, behind the scenes, and we've been behind the scenes, coaches will go, crap, we should have left. We should have played him 5 more minutes.
And I don't think that it would be a bad thing for Mark to say, look, we were trying to get Jackson going. And I think everybody in the world would say,
okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Because Jackson is the man. But then how do you say that and then not maybe, not throw some dirt, but maybe throw some shade towards Traven. But Traven was like, look, hold up. I'm like about to score 10 threes in a game.
Just give me the ball.
You know what I mean? And so I think the way that Mark politically correctly answered that and said that to you, I was actually pushing Mitch Harper. I was texting Mitch, and I'm like, freaking Harper, let me double down on that question. I need to know, But I think, how do you, it's a fine line between, and you know this, having the confidence, the irrational confidence, and then shaking your boots a little bit, and so it's.
And they do need to get Jackson going. Oh yeah. Because in the long run, he needs to be he needs to be back to where he was before the ankle injury.
Dallin should be the one shooting 12 threes in a game.
And they need Foose.
And they need
Foose to be a presence that demands a double team or he scores.
And I think Noah played well, but not as well as he has been playing, which is another factor.
I was watching that today because I was in Rome Saturday, so I had to watch it today.
Did you go to the temple?
Yes, we did.
Isn't it amazing?
Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. The statue of Christ and the 12 apostles in that, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It takes your breath away.
So every single time or whenever we had time off, my son is crazy about animals. And so we would go to the Rome.
And you were in Rome playing.
Yeah. And so we would go to Rome, and then we would, because we had friends and know people, we would walk the grounds as they were building. And it was unbelievable. 2
things took my breath away. We came around that corner to the visitor center and saw that. And then we walked in. That took my breath away. The other thing is we went into the Academia Museum. Okay. And we turned the corner. And Michelangelo's David is at the end of the corridor.
And you don't realize how big it is until you get there.
I just went, oh my goodness. Like that, it was breathtaking.
I know this is not an art thing, but do you know the story about David? Do you know how David came about?
Yeah. Well, here's what I love. My favorite. I want to hear your part of the story. Yeah. My favorite is that I found out that Michelangelo was a guy. So Bernini, who's a friend, now we're doing an art show.
Do you know the story?
But Bernini is an artist who's one of the greatest sculptors of all time. Yeah. And the Borghese Museum has all of his great works. And he did one of David and Goliath, and some beautiful, beautiful works. But Bernini was just like, I will use the finest quality materials of ever, right? Like, I need the most perfect marble to carve out. And Michelangelo was like, no, give me the crap that everybody else threw away. So the David was an old piece of marble that somebody else had already started carving on. And they go like, we don't like this piece of marble. And he's like, I am so gifted.
Yeah.
I want the crap marble because I will make this thing into a thing of beauty. And he carved the David out of a piece of scrap marble.
Yeah.
And it is it may be the greatest sculptor of all time.
So he was already somebody in Rome and the Vatican. But back home in Tuscany, in Florence, he was, he wasn't as grand.
Yeah.
And people said that piece of marble was cursed. And he said, and people were like doubting him a little bit because everybody knew about him in the Vatican, but they were like, why? Why are you so good?
Yeah.
So he paid for the piece of marble that he bought with his own money. And he went and he sculpted, and doing his thought process, I know because I lived in Tuscany for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And he said,
we were in Florence also this week.
That's amazing. And so the whole thought process was, what is the greatest underdog story in the whole world? And
it's Michelangelo.
David and Goliath, right? And the way that they explained, and the way, David is holding the rock in a certain way, and the way he's looking, it is unbelievable.
It's crazy. So, and I know you played over there. So there's your art lesson for the day, everybody. And it was the Temple Visitor Center is breathtaking. The temple is breathtaking. And if you've never been to Florence to see the Michelangelo's David,
that's right.
When you turn the corner and walk down, it literally will take your breath away. It's so spectacular. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
So, and I thought about you being on the show, and I know that you had played over there.
Yeah,
so I knew that you'd appreciate that. Yeah. So now I got a basketball question for you.
Yes.
We've called games that you've been in where I know you felt like Trevin Nell felt the other night.
Yeah.
We've not had that. I maybe had it in high school, but on a big level, what's it like when just everything you're shooting's going down?
I've had that at the Marriott Center back when it was 23,000, 22,700,
yes.
right? And you guys remember
They're
that.
sitting on benches up there instead of chair seats.
And so I will tell you this, it is an out-of-body experience. When you make the first one, the fans go wild. You make the second one after they miss the shot. And then when you can get another stop and you make a third three-pointer in a row and the Marriott Center's roof is about to explode, and I know you guys, and I'm getting chills just talking about it, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And as soon as you made that third one, and the only thing you hear is the crowd going crazy, but you kind of hear the whistle of them calling a timeout. And I can think back of me just yelling and doing the things I used to do. It is an out-of-body experience. And
so part of that, I love that. I didn't even think about that. Part of it is that whistle you hear in the background indicates to you, I just hit them so hard and so quick that they had to call a time.
And I remember the first time that happened to me. And I remember all of my games. Obviously I love the game and I love BYU. But I was a freshman playing against TCU at home, and I went 6 for 6. And then I missed my 7. I ended up being 6 for 7 for the game, and it was kind of like my coming out party as a freshman.
Yeah. I think I called that game.
And I remember knocking down the third three-pointer. The TCU coach called a timeout. And I remember just the whole gym is going wild. I can see my mom and dad in the stands saying, my mom's crying. My dad is just hyping it up. Keeney Young is coming at me and just shaking me up. Those are out-of-body experience. And I'll tell you what, because I'm very close to Trev, when he made his 7th, 8th, and 9th,
oh my goodness,
I was having an out-of-body experience because I was like, that's my boy. I was just having that proud moment. And so that's what it feels like.
Former Cougar Jonathan Tavernari is on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. JT played for BYU between 2006 and 2010, holds the BYU record for making at least 1 3 in 22 consecutive games. Great to have him with us. We say hello to Neil in Tucson, Michael from Beaumont, Texas, as Cougar fans around the world joining Wise Guys tonight. So Baylor's tomorrow night, and there's an interesting three-point setup in that game.
Right.
Baylor's number 1 in the NCAA in three-point percentage at 43. BYU's number 44 at 37. But BYU's number 1 in three-pointers made per game at 12.9. Baylor's back at 37 at 9.4. BYU's number 5 in three-point defense. Baylor's number 77.
There's the crack in the armor.
So what's the key in this shootout tomorrow in Waco?
I think it's going to be a very hype game for them because if I understand, it's the second time ever they play on that arena.
Yeah.
And so I think that's obviously with, school pretty much back in session. It's going to be packed. It reminds me a lot of some of the games BYU had in Moraga against St. Mary's.
Yeah.
It's a smaller arena. Doesn't feel like, a Marriott Center type of vibe. And so and Baylor now it's a national powerhouse and national championships and so on. I don't think so much of the storyline with Caleb and so on. I think it has been moved on and kind of past that a little bit. But I think the key is going to be, Baylor is now on the up and up, right? They had a few games. They kind of slipped a few ones back, but they're kind of building their momentum,
right,
which they always have made a name for themselves in the Big 12 of building that momentum and winning 5, 6, 7 games in a row. And BYU they're not going to face a tougher road environment than Baylor against a top 8. I think they're 14 in the country this week. It's going to be massive. Are they going to be able to knock down enough shots? And then if Baylor is not making them, but they're going to be physical. That's the one thing we know about Caleb, right? I mean, I know I was very critical about his shooting and everything, but Caleb was a man playing with children, right?
Physical.
And they have like 7 or 8 Calebs that are like that. And so is BYU going to be able to hold the momentum? I think it's a huge game. Something that Tyler Haas says a lot on the pregame. Are they going to be able to play the same way with the same intensity, have somebody knock down shots after they lose maybe 1, 2, 3 games in a row? Yeah. I think Jimmer said that to you guys as well.
Yeah, Jimmer talked about that with us.
And so I think that's the key tomorrow. How is BYU going to react after having lost a winnable game? Because there's a difference when you get whooped by,
when you go to Kansas and you lose at Kansas, it's like, oh, well.
It's Kansas at their field house. You get it. But when you lose at home, a losable game, and probably, you probably felt the same thing. Oh, gosh, I can't believe I lost a winnable game. And so,
see, when I was at BYU, we never lost one of those.
I never lost.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm kidding.
There were a couple that got away.
We lost a couple that we shouldn't. Like, we lost the UNLV ones, which was like, what? And we did lose to UTEP once.
Yeah,
but
that was a low of lows.
But that's the thing.
But you know what?
Even my time during the Mountain West, like I went back, I had one bad loss in my entire career at BYU, which is against a Boise State team that Kobe Carl played in it, that we had no business losing to them. But other than that, like all of the other games, I think maybe at Beaumont when we played at Beaumont for Keena Young.
Yeah, I remember that.
But other than that,
you lost to teams that were really good. Like
I never lost to Wyoming.
You got to take care of the games you're supposed to win.
Colorado
right?
State, never lost to TCU. Like, and that's the thing about
we lost to UTEP and Native. Like, it was the biggest upset in college football in like 3 decades, and I was part of that crap.
Yeah.
And to your point, those are you have to take care of those games.
We had just won the year before. We were 11-1. We lost the opener at Baylor on the road,
right?
Which is okay. We won 11 straight, beat Missouri in the bowl. We came around, went 13-0 the next year, won the national championship. We finished number 7 the one year. We finished number 1 the next year, and we had everybody back the next year. And we start out like how many you know, and we're ranked in the top 5 again, and we lost on the road to UTEP, who like I don't know, they'd won like 1 game in 3 years. It was despicable. It's like, what did we just do?
It was a tough time for all of us.
What did we just do? And then we lost to UCLA, who was really good that year and shouldn't have lost. And then we lost 10-6 to Ohio State in the Citrus Bowl. We still finished number 12 in the country that year. But yeah, so that's not a lot of losses, but I was part of one that we should have won.
So let me ask you this.
It doesn't feel good. It's awful. I still remember it. It's one of the most hated games ever.
with you.
Get him some water.
You never forget those. I got to cool off.
One more question for you, and then we're going to hit you up with 5 straight, and then Trent Pratt, the baseball coach, is going to slide in with us tonight here on the Wise Guys. But you picked up the game of basketball as a boy growing up in Brazil.
Yeah.
What has that game done for your life that's led you to the Wise Guys here tonight?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that. I was talking to my mom about this, and I don't know if I could have accomplished everything that I have in my life without basketball. My parents were, lower middle class in Brazil, so they could have given me opportunities to go to an okay college maybe, but I wouldn't have any opportunity to come to America, to graduate from really good high schools, to graduate from a college. I went to the Merit School of Business, which is one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
And it was all because of basketball. And then I got to play professionally. I got to go overseas. I got to do a ton of things for the church in Italy because I spoke Italian. I'm half Italian, so I speak Italian. And then for the majority of the time there, aside from when Eric was there, Eric Mika, I was the only professional athlete in Italy that was a member of the church. So being involved with, charity situations, volunteer opportunities, get to meet a lot of the general authorities and area leaders and do a lot of some of the translation that happened in the Rome Temple and be a part of that. Without basketball, and then I obviously connected the church with basketball. I mean, my dad is 5'9", my mom is 5'8".
Wow.
I look exactly like them, so I don't look like the milkman. And so, but what I'll say is, if it wasn't for basketball, and I feel like that was my God-given talent, that God put me on this earth for me to play basketball, for me to, be an outspoken person. We follow each other on social media. Mm-hmm. You guys have seen how much I share about the gospel. And so I try to do it, and I don't know what I could have done without basketball in my life. And I think I joined that with the church. So I know that it was God sent. And Jonathan, you guys know the story in the Bible with Saul and with David. And so I feel like, the gospel and the church and basketball to me is intertwined, much like it was for Krasimir Ćosić, and with somebody that I look up to a lot.
Absolutely. Great answer. Good stuff. You ready for 5 questions, Blaine?
Oh, yeah. Let's do this. Your favorite sports movie?
Rudy.
I love that his favorite sports movie is a football movie.
What number was Rudy? Do you guys remember?
I have no idea.
Dave and I we were really lucky. We were back at Notre Dame, and we did a show from Notre Dame, and Rudy came on with us.
Yeah.
And when he came out of the tunnel, and he doesn't look like Rudy on the film.
Yeah.
And but the fans knew who he was.
He looked more like an usher.
And they started to go, Rudy. I was like, no. I got the chills.
Rudy played with 45 guys. And
so
I played with 45.
That's right.
Is that right?
And by the way,
Number
Rudy's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is really cool. So your favorite singer or band?
Favorite singer or band? I'm probably going to go with Will Smith.
Will Smith, the Fresh Prince.
That's a first in the 18 months of the Wise Guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever gone with Will Smith, but I kind of like it.
Yeah.
So your favorite breakfast cereal? This is the most important question.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Okay.
Yes. I thought about that right before I came for my pregame meal today, but instead I went with Cinnamon Life.
Oh,
Right.
So,
Still got
cinnamon
the
toast.
cinnamon in there.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent choice. Your favorite BYU moment?
favorite BYU moment. I remember the first time we won a game at Air. There's two, and I'll be quick. The first one is when we beat Air Force my freshman year. We at least had gotten a share of the championship, and it was the first time in a few years that BYU has gotten a share of the regular season.
Right.
Brian Santiago comes to the locker room, crazy. And you guys know B, takes his ring off, puts on the middle of the floor, and said, "All of you guys just got one of those." And it was the first time that I ever won a championship here in the U.S., and I knew that I was going to get a ring. That's my first one. The second one is right after when we beat Florida. Also, Coach Rose and I had a good moment.
Yeah.
But after we beat Louisville in Las Vegas,
That was back, yeah. I remember that
as
one.
I was walking with Coach Rose to go to the press conference, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I'm like, "Oh!" And I turn around and I see it, and I just hear on a very Southern accent, "Young man, I'm Roy Williams, the head coach of University of North Carolina." That was one of the best shooting performances I've ever seen in college basketball. Congratulations. I hope we get a chance to play you tomorrow. Oh. And I'm going, "You're Roy Williams. I watched it when he got game. And in Blue Chips with
Yes.
Shaq, I know who you
He
are."
had 29 points
You had
in
29 in that game. Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
Those are the ones for me.
That's
yeah.
great.
Do you have a favorite three-point shot that you've made? Is there a favorite shot?
Yeah. Right before halftime against North Carolina, they shoot a free throw. Coach Rice tells me to go down to the corner and do something that Mike Lloyd and I always did it. Mike Lloyd drives the length of the court. I come off, there's a handoff, and there's Tyler Hansborough and Danny Green on me. And I knock down a switch from probably about, 5 feet or so back from the NBA line that they had it over there, and he goes nothing but net. And then you can see me running through and passing by Holly Rowe because she was with
Yeah,
the
she was
Mountain.
working with us back in those days.
the
Yeah.
Mountain. And so that is, now everybody call it Jimmer range, but before it was JT range. Yeah. So that's probably my favorite three-point shot.
That's awesome.
in my
I
career.
love that.
Hey, will you come back and see us again?
We need to do an art show now, I guess. Cause
Yes,
that was
we
super
got to
fun.
do it.
show.
And we'll speak a time and be like, "Hey, grazie. Arrivederci."
Bravo.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, this show has no bounds.
yes.
I love it. I love
Jonathan
it.
Hey,
Tavernari
we brought a
here.
guitar in, and I sang with my daughter.
Great.
So
Well,
we
nobody
do
wants to hear me
music
sing.
on this show. We're
But I
going to
do
do
got
an
some
art
stories.
section. Everyone, we're going
Love
to bring
it.
JT in and do a little art section.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for being
This is
here.
awesome.
We're so glad to have you, JT.
Jonathan Tavernari, outstanding three-point shooter, great guy, and now a BYU TV basketball analyst and
Yes.
guest here on the Wise Guys for the very first time, but not for the last. And again, tomorrow night it's BYU at Baylor. The Bears are number 14 in the country, 7 o'clock Mountain Time on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio. And then Saturday, January 13th, BYU's at UCF. That's at 2 o'clock Mountain Time, so it's a Saturday afternoon game. That one's on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio. And then the next home game is Tuesday, January 16th against Iowa State. That's at 7 Mountain Time on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio. Let's bring in the head baseball coach, Trent Pratt. Team opens practice here in a couple of weeks, maybe actually sooner than that. We'll ask him, as the first season of the Big 12 is just around the corner. Our pleasure to welcome back to the Wise Guys the head coach of the BYU baseball program, Trent Pratt. Good to have you with us. Thanks for
having
coming.
me.
We're going to let DJ go and hit that button that's actually going to put you on our live stream.
Yeah, and so
everyone can see that you're actually
we had
here.
Trent
There he
came
is.
we could only get him via video last time because he was in between a couple of things, but he was gracious
Do you
to come
remember-
on.
I think the time before you were in Hawaii. I was here.
Yeah,
You
we did it.
Hawaii.
Like I did it live from Hawaii.
You did.
And we did it together. But now we got you in studio, which is great.
Did you remember Tavernari? That guy could shoot.
Could shoot. I remember watching him play. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it wasn't a shot he didn't take.
he liked them all.
And like Jimmer, he had the green light. Dave Rose
Yeah.
gave him the green light.
That Louisville game, it's like, when did you feel like you were going to have a good game? He goes, I got off the bus and I was open. So
Now, the
That's a good
Big 12 basketball league has been talked about so much as the toughest basketball league in America, and we believe that. And we also know now what football's like and what soccer's going to be like, and we know what women's volleyball is going to be like. What about baseball?
It's right up there with them.
Yeah.
Besides the SEC, the Big 12 is probably right up in the top 2 or 3 in the country. So, man, we got a big mountain to climb.
Is it exciting?
It's exciting. We had a talk today, first day back in class, and we said, hey, it's going to be a challenge, but man, we're happy it's us. We're happy it's our team and our guys that get to take this challenge on and get to work.
So it's exciting. It's daunting, right? All at the same time. Have you noticed an uptick in players that you have access to that you get to talk to in the recruiting process as a result of them knowing you're going to be in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think we've all seen that a little bit. I think kids maybe we called in the past that maybe aren't members of our faith that didn't return our calls, didn't have interest.
Yeah.
We've had those kids on campus. Got one of them, lost a couple to some other big schools, but we're in the mix with those kids now. So definitely being in the Big 12 has helped with that.
That's great.
The road games at West Virginia, Texas Tech, Texas, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State. And the home games, Houston, Kansas, Baylor, Oklahoma, and Cincinnati. Not scheduled to play UCF. We've spent so many years looking over the WCC schedule. And now we just look at this one, and we've gone to another planet, haven't we?
It's a lot. Yeah, it's different for sure.
And your league, WCC, had some good baseball.
Yes, it did.
And there were years where some of the best teams in the country, including BYU, were in them.
Yeah.
But this league, from top to bottom, is a different animal.
Yeah, there's not many weekends off. And that's kind of the key is I think every sport we're seeing that every weekend's going to be a grind. It's going to be tough.
So what's the format for this? We talk about you go on the road. When you go on the road, you just don't go play West Virginia once. You play a series with them, right? How does that work so fans understand how that's going to work?
Man, we fly out on Wednesday and we play a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series.
Yeah.
Try to get home Saturday night. So, yeah, we were on the road. We missed a lot of class on the road, but we get to know other guys really good too. We spend a lot of time together through travel, and so it's a good experience. But, yeah, baseball, it's a 3-game series.
And you take tutors on the road with you because the guys, even though that's a difficult schedule, and as a conference like the Big 12 that's spread out, they still have to keep up on their studies, right?
Yeah, we do the best we can with that. This fall, our team, grades came out. We had a 3.35 GPA as a team,
Good.
so that's one of the highest we've had in a while.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Now the challenge is, hey, let's not go to a 2.5 during the season. Let's try to keep it around 3.0.
Now, skiers look at the 10-day forecast, and they love it because it's going to snow. You look at the 10-day forecast, and you're about to start practice, and you can practice outside because your field's got a heater in it where the snow will melt, but cold is cold. And so how does the January forecast of these next 2 weeks affect how you start?
Well, this week's awful. I mean, we have a heater, but when it's supposed to snow every day,
it can't keep up, right?
And it's cold. So luckily we have the IPF and we have good facilities we can work out in. So we'll get our work in. We'd like to be outside if we can, and if it's 30 and sunny, we'll go out. But this week doesn't look too good.
No,
yeah. When's
it
the
doesn't.
first? When's the first home game scheduled? We've got that.
It's like that end of February, 1st of March. Gonzaga home.
So
Yeah,
it's
February
It's like, where's
29th.
all this snow been the last 2 months, right? And now all of a sudden we're feeling like, okay, we're getting into the beginning of the year. It should start to now we're going to get it.
Yeah, I think my 7-year-old, January 3rd, practiced outside. He was in shorts and a T-shirt outside of Spanish
People
Fork.
were golfing last week.
Yeah, we need that weather now.
Now, last year, of course, we had record snow. So let's hope for moderate snow because we want to get some home games in. Let's talk about some of the guys. And you got some pitchers coming back. And I know when Bryce Robinson, even though he participated in senior day last year, as we see so many football players do, and then they go, hey, wait a sec, I still have another year to get ready to go get a job. But 7-3, kid out of Las Vegas, leads your pitching staff.
Yeah, he's been one of our best guys for the last 2 or 3 years, and we're lucky to have him back. Pitching, we struggled last year, had some injuries, and couldn't quite overcome them. But this year, with Bryce coming back, having Mason Olson back, Boston Mabius back, and then bringing in some new guys, we feel like we're a lot deeper on the mound, have a chance to do a lot more. And that was one of our struggles last year was, on the mound, and we feel like this group has a chance to be a lot better.
Yeah, what does Brett Hansen bring to you? Transfer out of Vanderbilt. You'd mentioned the SEC is one of the top baseball conferences in the country. He was a Max Preps High School All-American out of Pleasanton, California. What does he bring to this staff?
Yeah, he's an experienced guy, left-handed. Hasn't had a chance to pitch a lot in college, but he's an older guy with some maturity. And him and his brother Ben was there last year, and had maybe a little rough year, but being back off a mission, you kind of know what to get with pitchers as they come back. This year we expect him to step up and be a lot better.
Ben had more bad luck than anyone last year. He went 0-5. He had 10 starts, but he was your Saturday guy. And it seemed like, and I think I called a lot of those games where there was a lead that got away late or whatever. It just couldn't get over the hump, but he had some great.
He has some good starts for us, definitely.
Starts,
and we just got to find a way to finish those games out. And, we had moved Mason Olsen in the rotation last year.
Yeah.
We were planning him the season to be towards the end of the game. And so now it allows Mason to be, we have some guys at the end of the game that, have a chance to a little better finish the game for us.
And hopefully, knock on wood, some better health this year so that
Yes,
you're
100%.
deep enough to have a deep bullpen and do all that.
Is Mabius the closer?
He'll be in the end of the game somewhere, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
He was lights out for us, and we got him a lead at the end of the game towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did really good for us. Count on a win when we had a lead late with him.
All right, let's talk about some fielders. And I know Brock Watkins, who was hurt all last year, except for those first few games. And I think I asked you probably 20 times, is Watkins playing today? And you say, we'll see how he warms up. Up. Well, he's back, and he's had an off season. How valuable is he in your middle infield?
It's real valuable to have a guy with experience.
Yeah.
We also brought in Crew Robinson, a transfer from UC San Diego that, played a lot there as a second baseman. And so, we lost some guys offensively last year. Mm-hmm. We lose Austin Deming, we lose Cole Gamble, but return Cooper Vest, Luke Anderson, Easton Jones. So there's a lot of new faces, but like every team, someone's going to step up. Deming didn't have the year he had last year, the years before, but he stepped up and had a huge year for us. And so I'm excited to see who that person is going to be this year.
There were times when he was hitting softballs up there.
He was unconscious.
And he put those across the street to the Marriott Center.
Like JT was talking about, there's some out-of-body experiences with him too, as the ball was floating in there.
Yeah. You guys have done really well with local, like Cooper, you mentioned Cooper Vest, a St. George kid, Easton Jones is a Lehigh kid. How big is your emphasis on getting the top players in the state of Utah?
We always want the best players in our state. We want to win, those battles at home and then mix those in with kids, from all over. But no, baseball in Utah has gotten a lot better the last little while, and we definitely, want to keep those kids at home.
Trent Pratt, head baseball coach at BYU's on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. I thought Luke Anderson was fun to watch, and we kind of went through the roller coaster of a freshman season with him, where there were days of brilliance, and then there were days of being a freshman. What are your expectations for him? And then let's also go back to Cooper, who I thought might have been your best player all around those last month of the season.
Yeah, we're expecting, like a lot of those two guys, to kind of lead us. Luke's, man, he's an awesome kid. He's infectious. Kids love being around him. If people know, Luke played, I think, the last 3 or 4 weekends with a broken wrist.
Right.
Oh, man.
He got hit at UC San Diego, and he's like, there's no way you're taking me out of the lineup. Like, there's no chance. And just the type of kid he is and what a good teammate he is. And Cooper the same way. Tough, gritty kid. And both those guys can help lead our young guys and some inexperienced guys. Hey, here's how it's done. And we need those guys to have good years for us to be successful.
You mentioned some newcomers on the pitching staff that will give you some depth and help with that. What newcomers do you have joining this year that you feel like, oh, this guy's going to contribute right away?
We have Stone Cushing, a Salem kid that was at CSI, Maddox Peck from Bingham High School.
Is he related to Coach Peck that coached football up there for so many years?
I believe so.
It has to be, right?
Legendary. If you're Peck and you're at Bingham, there's a legendary football coach up there.
Kason Bell from St. George, another freshman, Max Stanley, Brett Hansen. So it's like we have a lot of good arms, young arms. They're just inexperienced. Haven't really maybe pitched this level a lot. And so it's just how quickly can we get them acclimated and get them in a game. Carter Foss that hasn't had a great career here, but has been lights out and really good this fall. And so we're expecting a lot of those guys, and hopefully that allows us to, hey, someone's in trouble, we can get someone else in, where last year we felt like we had to ride those starters a little longer than we would have liked to. Where the previous year, the starter got to the 5th, we had Nate Dally, Reed McLaughlin, Cy Nilsson.
Had some dudes,
Hey, we got lead in the 5th or 6th, hey, ball game. Those 3 guys are going to finish it for us. And that hurt losing Reed last year, and I haven't, his calming presence at the end of the game. So we look at this staff, and it's as deep as we've had. It's inexperience. So it's, hey, how quickly can we get them up to speed, to a new speed of the game? Catcher,
I think you went through 3 last year.
Yeah.
Colin Reuter got hurt and was out for most, right?
Yeah, the whole season.
And now he's back. Is he the lead guy down there, or you still got a committee?
We're hoping the whole Colin will be healthy. His arm's healing up. Hopefully, that Colin can do it. He was really good for us as a freshman. Yeah. And if not, we have Parker Goff that came in and did a really good job for us towards the middle end of the season. And we have Bryant Ball and a young freshman, Gavin Taylor, that, man, we think there's enough depth there. We'd love Colin to be healthy. We saw what he did as a freshman. He's a big power bat and can really catch and throw. But if not, we know there's guys that can get back there and handle our pitching staff for us.
If I remember right, didn't Parker hit a home run his first at bat?
I believe so.
Yeah, and I remember talking to his parents walking out after one of those games, and I think if correct me if I'm wrong, but his family had been mostly a Utah Ute family, and he kind of surprised them by picking BYU, and they were adjusting to blue shirts and all that stuff. But they were all in, and what a moment for him.
Yeah, his dad Mikey and my brother Scott were actually teammates at Utah for a year.
Is that right?
So so we known Mikey for a while.
That's cool.
We talked about this league and the challenges. What's the formula for winning in this league? Like, as you look at what you're building, where do you think, man, we just got to get better in this area? We've got to be better at that to compete for championships in this league.
Obviously, we got to get better on the mound and play better defense. You look at last year, we didn't pitch it great, and defensively, we didn't do a great job. A lot of that was injuries and guys not being healthy, but everyone has those. But that's been the big emphasis this fall is, hey, we got to pitch and play defense. Mm-hmm. If you can't pitch, you're not going to win.
Right.
You cannot score everyone every night.
Yeah.
There's going to be nights where, hey, we might have to outscore some people, but if you don't let the other team score, you got a really good chance.
You got a great shot.
You've played these Big 12 teams before. You played Texas and you played Oklahoma State. Is pitching the thing in the Big 12? Is pitching depth what is the biggest difference maker?
I think it's just depth all around. I think you see in football and basketball, it's just the depth of their lineup 1 through 9, the amount of their depth on the mound, their first 8 to 10 guys, and it's us just gradually building that depth. But like anything, we're not expected going in and again, we expect to win.
Right.
We're going to win every game.
Right.
And we're going to battle and like crazy. And we expect to go in and win games and compete like crazy.
Is there a program in the league this year that we all should watch where you're just going, man, they're loaded coming back? The clear expected winner of this league, or is there a couple of teams?
Probably TCU and Texas this year. Reading, TCU was in the World Series last year, returned a lot of players. Texas has been, right there the last 3 or 4 years.
They're always there.
Kansas State has one of the best teams they've had in a while. And so there's not many letdowns in this league. West Virginia has one of the best hitters in the country. Went to a region last year, so
it's going to be awesome.
And then we pick up Miami on a bye week. And so
there you go.
It's like we didn't do ourselves many favors right there.
That's as random as the scheduling things I've seen. I was reading through the schedule, and I'm like, all of a sudden, the Hurricanes show up in Miami in May for a couple of days.
Those bye weeks are tough. You look and, you're looking for people that need games, and the schedule came out late, so just trying to pick up game, and we lost a series with somebody when our schedule changed. They lost a series, and it's like, hey, we're open, you're open.
Why couldn't you go to Miami in February?
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been awesome.
We're going to Arizona, so not quite Miami, but close.
Yeah.
Trent Pratt's with us on the Wise Guys. 2 new additions, Adam Law from the Dodgers, a former Coug, and Tyler Coolbaugh from Arizona join your staff and give you a whole different look. What do you like of these 2 guys?
Man, I love how they interact with our players. They're there all the time. They work. They're super energetic. It's what our kids need. Coaching Adam our first year here, we had a good relationship when he played here and kept in contact since he left. He's working as a mental strength guy with the Dodgers, also with their infielders. So he brings a world, of knowledge on the mental side, which we know is a big deal. And he has the ability to connect with our players really well. And Tyler's been around baseball his entire life. Dad's a big leaguer, coaches in the big leagues now. And so we just have some guys with baseball that give our players more avenues, more people to go to and teach. And so that's been a great job because we need to be a good job at developing players. We're not going to go get the biggest 5 stars. We'll get some of them. We're not going to get all of them like some of their schools get. Right. So our bread and butter's got to be, we got to get guys and develop and get them better.
How important is this? Because we see each team now, as there's more resources, add like a coach that can help with mental health and resilience and with positive attitude and all of those kinds of things. How big a part of the game is that? And these teams in the Big 12 that you're going to be competing with, have they had this element for a long time, or is this relatively new to baseball? Period, into all these other sports?
No, it's been around in baseball for a while. Coach Alvarez, there's a guy named Ken Urviza that's kind of like, the godfather of this. And when he pitched at Long Beach State, Ken Urviza was on their staff. And so some teams have had it. I think most of the teams in the Big 12 probably have someone. We have Dr. Manning that works with us.
Right.
But also helps to have Adam on a daily basis.
Right.
Like at bat to at bat, pitch to pitch. That baseball is a quick game, and it's a game of failure. You're going to fail a lot more than succeed in that game. And so being able to look, control and understand outcomes. And we have to talk about it a lot. And the more we talk about it, we'll gradually get better at it as well.
We used to tell our little leaguers down in Vegas, when we're going up against somebody 3 times their size who's throwing smoke, we just say, guys.
Guy looks like he's 9 feet tall on the mound.
The harder he throws, the further it goes. And we just
one.
tried to get him to believe that.
Just move it forward a little
they're
bit.
just terrified to go in there, but you had to get him in there, right? You have to go to the psyche and get him into the box. The season opener is in the MLB Desert Invitational, February 16th. You get USC at Sloan Park, which is home of the Cubs.
I saw your socks,
Cubs. Yeah, we got the Cubs socks on.
That's his team.
Then
like
you're going to play
and dies with him.
Ohio State on February 17th, and then on a Monday, February 19th, Grand Canyon. Those are 3 good games.
Really
right
good programs.
For really good teams. I'm good friends with all those head coaches, so it should be fun and a good challenge. All great coaches and have good teams this year, so it should be exciting.
And that home opener, we were mentioning the end of February 29th through March 2nd with Gonzaga coming in for a series. So that's a team you're really familiar with to open at home with.
Yeah, we've got to know their staff really well.
Yeah.
We complement each other well, and Coach Mactoff and his staff, it's been great playing them. And at the end of the year, hey, we want to keep this going as much as we can. We love coming here. We love playing you guys. We love the battles we have. Let's find a way to keep it going. So we were happy that somehow that opened up. We'll see if we get it in. It's cold.
We have the heaters on that
hopefully
day.
one of those good winter days that we get every once in a while.
Did they put the same field in? They said they were going to go put the same field in after playing on yours.
I don't know if they put the heater in. I talked to Coach Mactoff through the process. I can't remember if they said they ended up doing the heater or not. That's one thing I wasn't sure of.
They were jealous of that. And then will we go up to Gonzaga next year?
Yep.
Okay.
Just do a home
and Dave and I are volunteering to go call that series in Miami. Even if it's in May and it might be a little warm, we're volunteering to go call
down
that
there
for sure.
Yeah, you have to fight Greg for that one.
Yeah.
I know. Believe
All
me.
BYU home games and every Big 12 game be televised on ESPN+. And then every BYU game will also be on BYU Radio. The fundraisers, the first pitch dinner is coming up Thursday, January 18th at the Provo Marriott. Keynote speaker is Justin Sua, former BYU pitcher. Tell us about him and why folks need to get tickets and get down there.
Man, you need to come listen to Justin talk. Was a great player here. He's worked in the mental performance side. He's been full-time with the Devil Rays. I think he just kind of left them as kind of his own, but he's worked at Cleveland Browns. I know he's written 2 books as far as for young kids on working on the mental game, and we're excited to have him. I've got to know him a little bit this fall, just talking to him, and man, what a great human being and a great person, and a good advocate for our program. And he has a lot to talk about and a lot of knowledge with stories in his journey through the professional ranks. I think he worked at Cleveland Browns as well at one time.
Oh, yeah?
I'm probably doing him some injustice. I don't have his profile in front of me.
That's all right.
When you read
He sounds really good, right? Just with what you're saying.
No, but his dad played here. He's a legacy, BYU player, and so it'll be great to have Justin back in Provo.
And this is a phenomenal dinner. I've been to it many times. There's the speaker, but there's the awards that are presented to your players. I believe there's still a silent auction with some of the greatest memorabilia ever assembled.
Silent auction, and then Brian Santiago will come up and do a live auction. And if you haven't seen Brian in action,
he's something special. I'm sure.
Just to come see him.
It's fun that Justin Sua comes back in as a speaker, a former player. How engaged do former players stay? Like we've had Wally on the show. Wally joined us just on a few weeks ago. It was so fun to reminisce with Wally about his time here and then his time in Major League Baseball when Wally World was at its peak.
We've had our favorite Cubs pitcher on as well over the last
I'm losing my
season.
mind. Yeah,
Michael Rucker.
Michael Rucker. Yeah. Michael shared with us the experience of one of his first efforts coming out of the bullpen was against Aaron Judge in Yankee Stadium. He told us this whole. He says the last thing the pitching coach said to him is like, whatever you do, don't get it up high in the strike zone, or he'll mash this thing out of here because bases were loaded. Yeah. And he says he's walking to the mound, he's saying to himself, like the great Vicini in his head, he's like, well, he's going to think for sure that I've got the scouting report, that there's no way I'll throw a high fastball. So what I think I should do is I should throw a high fastball, and which he did, and he blew it by him, and he actually struck Aaron Judge out. So anyhow, it's been fun to have those guys. I've been telling Dave we're going to go get my boy Corey Snyder to come on and be with us, good friend. Yeah. How much a part of the program do the alumni stay? And would you like to have more of them? And what are you doing to get those guys engaged?
We want them all back. There's a lot that are involved, and we talk to quite a bit, but yeah, we want them all back. We have this place because of them. Yeah. They're the guys that were before us, and there's a great BYU history I don't think a lot of people know about. And we want those guys back and share it with our players and talk to them and have them around. We welcome them back. If you have my number, if you don't have it, you're my email, call me. Like, we want you guys back in the program and involved. It was awesome. Before our dinner last year, we had good weather, and Rucker actually came back. He was at the dinner, and he got on the mound, and he faced some of our guys. And
that's awesome.
Anybody hit him?
Yeah, we hit him pretty good. He got mad, and but it was a lot of fun just having him back and seeing him compete. And man, it was great having Rucker with us. That's a guy that, if you got a lead as a starter, if we got Rucker 1-run lead, it was like, okay, the game's over.
The game's over.
Because you could see it in his eyes. He was going to finish it.
Right, he went 16-1, right? It's senior year, or it was last year.
Last year, whatever it was. He had one loss, but no, it was, you knew if you got, and we had a lot of good. He went up against Corbin Burns. He went up against Mitchell White. There was 3 or 4 big leaguers the West Coast Conference had on their Friday night guys that year, and
he was great.
And Ruck beat them all.
That's awesome.
I love that. The one thing I love about Michael Rucker is he loved his time here. His whole life changed here.
We love having him on because he talks about what BYU did for him as an individual and how much he enjoyed his time here. And it's really fun to talk to him.
He did a lot
that.
for us too, that's for sure.
So let me ask you about a Bryce Harper question. So I knew Bryce from Vegas, where he's a UNLV fan and a College of Southern Nevada ball player, but he visited with your team last summer, I believe it was, or that summer or the year before.
A couple fall or springs ago.
He was then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, there's Bryce Harper talking to the Cougs. So maybe he likes the Cougs a little more than
I hope so. We'll take him back too. No, he had a great. It was awesome to see him talk to our team. He had Bryson Stott with him. They came together. They were in town and got a lift in and stopped in. And it was awesome to hear him talk to our team and for our kids, to see something like that and the words he shared with them was like, just, hey, love your teammates. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Play hard, but man, love each other, help each other out, become tight. And it was cool to hear that message from him. Being a big leaguer, that's what they try to focus on there.
And he's lived it. He's even told the Phillies that he wants to be a forever Philly. And he's making a fortune, but he's also not going, hey, I'm going to have another good game and I'm out. He's all in on Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I'm going to leverage my success to make another however many million someplace else. He just hasn't done that, right?
So one question we've asked all the coaches who've marched into their Big 12 seasons, do your players have an idea of the challenge ahead? I mean, you see the names and this, but you know what you're going into. And Mark Pope knows what he's going into. Amber Whiting knows what she's going into. Kalani had a pretty good idea. It's big time, but the reason it's big time is because it's tough. Yeah. And these big wins are going to be massive wins, and there will be some defeats in there too. But this is where you want them to be.
Yeah, we had that talk today. Is, hey guys, we're in a good situation because they're not going to expect a lot out of us, which is good. And we need to take that with a chip on our shoulder and play a little angry and go out there with a presence and fight and claw and do whatever we can to beat somebody. So that's what we're trying to tell them is, yeah, we know what it's like, but I don't think even I know what it's like as a coach to coach against it week in and week out. As a player, I remember I played at Auburn, played in the SEC, and you knew there's
no rest.
Didn't matter where you went on the road. Like, man, that team might only have 2 wins, but you might get swept.
Before that, you were in the Pac-12, so it's never been easy.
So it's been a gauntlet, but it's different on this side of it, that's for sure. Yeah. But just preparing our guys to know, like, hey, we have an awesome opportunity to go do something here. And we're thankful it's us. We're glad that we're in this situation. We actually have a chance to do it. And so that's our message, but we need to dig deep and find out what's gonna separate us and come with an identity real quick and be able to, last that throughout the season.
I'm telling you, there's few better places to be than Miller Park on a Friday night
on a beautiful summer day. Is there a better setting in college baseball than what you have right there, where you sit as a fan, where you sit and just gaze at Y Mountain and the mountains and Temp and all of that Cascade? I don't know that I've ever seen a stadium in a better setting.
I don't think so either. People there's a lot of pictures on social media, but that doesn't do it justice until you sit and see it live. And those mountains are pretty majestic to sit up there and see. I think sometimes we take it for granted, but every once in a while sit back and look at it, it's like, geez Louise, we're pretty blessed to be here.
Yeah. Every single coach that I've done a pregame visit with all these years just stares at the mountains, and even Pepperdine, who stares into the Pacific Ocean. He's like,
this is different.
This is awesome.
Special. Yeah. We were doing a basketball game a few weeks ago, Trenton. Was it Bellarmine or no? Who was it? It was somebody from back east, and I don't know. We were doing so many of them, but anyhow, we were coming out of practice. We went to their shoot around. They came out and they said, "Hey, could you just come over and take a picture?" They had the whole team together, and they wanted a picture with Mount Timpanogos in the background. and Coach, it was Georgia State.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach says, none of these kids have ever been out in the mountains before. And he says, this is so cool for our. So he says we're having a hard time focusing because everybody just keeps wanting to come out and looking at the mountains, which is really fun. And you get a little of that. Big 12 teams coming in here, and they're not going to be used to that setting. The ball carries big time. My days here were spent watching Wally and Corey and these guys. I watched Corey hit one onto the top of the steps at the Mary Center, and Wally hit one on top of May Hall over in Hillman Hall.
That doesn't surprise me with those two guys. That's the reason they played as long as they did.
Yeah. Tickets to the first pitch dinner are still available through this Friday, January 12th, at sportscamps@byu.edu. The event's Thursday, January 18th at the Provo Marriott with Justin Sue, a former BYU pitcher, back to tell his story and help raise some money for the baseball program. So follow the Cougs, get involved, and there's an opportunity for you to donate, participate. You get a player gets assigned to sit at each table, I think.
We kind of help them.
Or something like that.
They're around
the waiters.
help people,
Somehow
people to their seats.
You get to hang out with the guys.
Hopefully you get a chance to talk to some of our players and get to know them a little bit.
I'm reminded when you were named head coach, we were talking to you about your son, your youngest, who and his reaction. How old is he now?
He's 7 now.
He's 7 now. How has he taken news of the Big 12, and he's seen the schedule, and what are his thoughts?
Well, he knows a lot. If you ask him any basketball question right now, he's going to tell you who's ranked, who's not.
Yeah.
He knows they come out.
Does he think Travenel should have stayed in the game longer?
Yes. Yeah. He was 6, so he didn't get to come to the game with me, but my wife texts me and goes, he had to turn the game off. He got frustrated towards the end. We're not going to win. So he's kind of a front runner that way.
That's awesome.
But no, he's excited. He's already asked how many trips he can go on. Him and my 9-year-old son is like, well, can we go Oklahoma State? Can we go here? I'm like, we'll find out. Just hold on for a minute. But no, they're excited.
Good.
It's good to have them around and run. You've seen them run around the park. It's man, it's fun to have them.
Occasionally, I'll get some insight from them in your office before the game as they come through. They're full of what I love that they love it, and they love that their dad's the head coach. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Head baseball coach Trent Pratt. Again, that first pitch banquet's coming up January 18th. Practice. When's your first official day?
We're limited hours.
Yeah.
First official day is I think January 26th.
And individual workouts they can go on right now.
Yeah, we just had meetings today, so we'll
I mean, you can be with them right now. It's just a limited hours thing, right?
We're 8 hours a week with them.
And you're pretty much in this. You're in the indoor practice facility, hitting with the nets and all that.
We're trying to get that schedule how we're going to make it work.
That's right.
It's
crazy.
At least this week.
Too much intramurals in there.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, and it's next month. Next month, baseball starts.
Exciting times.
February 16th against USC at Sloan Park in Mesa, Arizona. That's where we'll be. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll be.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks for coming on, guys. Looking forward to the season.
BYU baseball on the coldest day of the year. We're talking BYU baseball.
That's right.
Just
And we held off the snow for Trent so that he could get up to our undisclosed location in Provo. But we did disclose that it's on a hill. So it's not good when it snows, but
it's okay tonight.
It's holding off till tomorrow so Trent can get it in and out of here safely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Next week, Eric Mika and volleyball head coach Sean Olmstead will be on the Wise Guys. Mark Durant on January 22nd, also working on a special guest that day.
Yeah,
and then January 29th.
Can we tease that one a little bit?
All we can say is
we might have somebody that's a new player on the football team. That's all we're going to say.
Let's just leave it there. Tyler Haas going to join us on January 29th. Gordon Eakin, the head softball coach, will be with us on the 29th. Jerem Jordan's going to pop in from BYU Sports Nation.
We haven't had Jerem yet.
No.
We've had Spencer, right?
We've had Spencer, and we are rolling into the new year with a lot of fun stuff.
Awesome.
And February is going to be loaded as well, including Diljit Taylor, who's going to come in. Steve Cleveland will be in. Jay Hill, defensive coordinator.
Yes,
will also
excited
be in.
to have Jay in here. We had Jay on the show before, but it'll be fun to have him back and talk about this recruiting.
Now this is his second class.
My goodness, this recruiting class has been fun, and we're going to go through it in depth with him.
Let's do the CougarBoard question of the week.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with CougarBoard, it's the largest online community of BYU fans with thousands of posts daily. And this question comes from...
I need to read the question because it's really directed towards you.
Well,
we can both ask.
Jonathan Tavernari kind of answered it, so we can just do it quickly.
He did. So
this is from insider subscriber user Cougar Fan Blue.
Yeah, Coug Fan Blue.
And he writes, it doesn't feel like Coach Pope has really addressed why Travenel sat for so long in the second half, both when he was asked by me, Dave, on the court, as well as in the press room. Do you think his answers in the press room about wanting to keep fresh bodies on the floor and maintain matchup integrity are the reasons, or did something else happen that isn't being disclosed? So let me say, as a guy who interviewed him about 30 minutes after the game, and it was a disappointing loss, and coaches, don't love losing, and you can tell. And I asked him about Trevenel going out after making his 9th three-pointer, and he stayed out for 5 minutes or so. Was that too long? And he said no. And then he proceeded to talk about how important Nell is to the team. And then he said kind of the same stuff in the press room. What he didn't say is, I blew it, I made a mistake, I blah, 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 blah. But you know what? When you're head coach, you don't have to. You don't even have to answer it.
Right.
And he gave his answer the way he wanted to answer it. And some thought maybe I should have come back and said, well, why wasn't he in there? Which just isn't our place on BYU TV in that setting. We had to ask the question because that's what everyone wanted to ask him. So we asked him, and we gave him the opportunity to answer it. And he answered it the way he wanted to. And maybe if it was CBS Sports, we go, why wasn't he?
But you know
but
what,
he
though?
wasn't.
Even CBS Sports, and you and I have worked for the networks, and we do games for ESPN. They ask the coach a question. These networks have relationships with these leagues, and they're not about alienating coaches.
Yeah, or setting them off.
Yeah, you don't go in there and they don't give you an answer you like, so you dig down. That's just not how you do it.
Question. You do ask the question.
You asked it, and he gave the answer, and that was good enough. Now, I don't think there's any conspiracy theory or there was something that he was hiding.
No, I don't think so.
And it was interesting. Jonathan's take was really interesting that he felt like Jonathan thinks he really felt like he needed to get Jackson going. And that Trevin was going, but Jackson needed to start to make some shots.
And he didn't get going.
Yeah. And I would agree with the fact that Jackson and Trevin both need to be awesome for them to win games against the upper half of this league, for sure. And
hindsight, and coaches don't like to say they're wrong. They'd just rather not. It's an ego. It's a confidence thing. It's I don't want the team to second guess my second guessing, so I'm not going to second guess. But hindsight is you bring Nell out for 60 seconds and you put him back in the game. He has 27 points.
And I don't know if he was gassed or not, and that could be why they brought him to the bench and they give him a short rest. When somebody is like that crazy hot, or they're just not missing shots, I feel like you just ride him until they miss. Yeah. Like you just hey, dude's like, he's unconscious right now. So let's just keep going. If he misses a couple, then let's give him a blow.
So let's see how they respond tomorrow night, Tuesday night at Baylor.
And would you be surprised? I think you've already said this. Would you be surprised if they go down there, shoot lights out, and beat Baylor on the road?
No, I think anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised if
TCU had Kansas beat in Lawrence, and the officials got involved.
I won't be surprised if BYU goes down and doesn't shoot it well, and Baylor runs away with it. And I'm not going to be surprised if BYU goes down and all of a sudden has a rebound and shoots it really well and comes away with a win, because BYU's good enough defensively. They get after. I think they'll be much better. They're going to recommit to offensive rebounding. My biggest disappointment was I feel like defense and rebounding are reproducible from night to night, and for some reason, and they need to go look at that film and figure out why they weren't as effective offensive rebounding the ball. I was fine with their defensive effort the other night. But they're good enough in those two aspects typically that they can have an off shooting night and still be in a basketball game and not get run out of the gym.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to getting punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
They responded fine after losing to Utah. And now we'll see after getting beat by Cincinnati. It's going to be, every game's going to be, I gotta watch and see this. So they play Central Florida on Saturday, and they were picked 14th. BYU's picked 13th. But still, who's going to win that game? I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's just going to be something where, in years past, good BYU teams, when they're matched up against Pacific and they're favored by 20, beat them by 20. This year in the Big 12, there aren't any Pacifics in Portland.
There's not
even
a Pacific.
Central Florida. And you know what? The Big 12 can look at BYU and think of BYU as a Pacific. They're just not. And they're number 4 in the net after losing a home game.
And this is and this Baylor team, really long. I mean, we'll be saying this about every team.
Great coach.
Really long, really athletic, phenomenally coached, really great at home.
Not their first year in the Big 12.
Yeah. Now, they don't jump off the page at me like Houston does. I look at Houston, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a collection of NBA guys. Like they're crazy athletic, right? But Baylor's long, we'll say this every week. Kansas, long, athletic, Great lateral quickness.
And you know what BYU
unbelievably
is?
well coached.
With Atiki and Foose and Waterman and Khalifa. They're long. We've said that in their 12 and 2 starters. Like, well, BYU's not tall, but they're long.
Yeah, and every coach that we've done a bunch of games here in the last couple months says to us, man, they just look like a Power 5 team. They're different than they've been. They're long. They're athletic. When Jackson Robinson's back from this ankle injury and playing with the confidence he was playing with before it, he's long, athletic, can shoot it as well as anybody in the country. Noah Waterman can get after the offensive glass. He's 6'11". He's really bouncy. He's long. He's athletic.
Yeah.
You know, Khalifa's an elite level passer, and he's 6'11". So BYU's a little deceiving on the perimeter because guys like Spencer Johnson, who don't look very big, Spencer's 6'5", and he's got great lateral quickness. He's a good perimeter defender. This is Trevin Nell's an elite level shooter. BYU's talented. This is a good basketball team. But in this league, there's going to be a period this season when they lose 3 games in a row, and fans are going to go out of their minds, but it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. They go into tomorrow's game, and we don't have, as you see, we're not wearing goggles, so there's no blue goggles on here. We'll just go with the analytics. The numbers as they go into this game against Baylor, coming off the loss against Cincinnati, they are still the number 1 3-point shooting team in the country. They're top 6 in defending the 3. They're in the top 10 in rebound margin. They're in the top 10 in scoring. They're in the top 15 in scoring defense. They're in the top 10 in defending the 3-point shot. This is why they were number 2 in the net.
Right.
This is why they're still number 4 in the net after a loss. And those numbers represent this team. Now, can they go in there in that environment and do that? Well, that's on them. But for us to say they got a chance to go into these games and beat them based on the analytics, the numbers are there saying, yeah, this is what this team does, and they do it better than this team. Let's see if they can actually do it.
And do I expect them to win at Baylor? I don't.
No,
I don't expect them to win. But
they could.
Am I be flabbergasted if they win? No, I'm not. I'm not going to be flabbergasted if they win. And then do I expect them to win at Central Florida? I actually expect them to win at Central Florida.
They should win at Central Florida.
And I expect them to beat Iowa State at home next week.
Yeah.
You know, so it's.
And if you do that, you're 2-2 through 4 Big 12 games. That puts you at 14-4.
Hey, before the season started, I would have said I would be happy if they were 6-10. And wait, no, they play 18.
Look, we'd have been just happy
6 and 12,
if
right?
they were in the net.
Now all of a sudden I want them to be 9-9, and I'm going to be happy, right? My expectations changed a little bit because we saw that they're a little longer, a little more athletic, shoot the ball better than we thought.
Look,
play better defense than we expected, rebound the ball. Now I want them 9-9 in league, and if they go 9-9 in this league, amazing. They go 7-11 in this league. Amazing. And they'll be in the NCAA tournament at 7-11 in this league.
Last January, around this time, they were 92 in the net.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 4 now.
Yeah.
After a loss.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you can go lose to Baylor and not move, really.
No, because Baylor's right there, too.
Yeah. So.
All right, some campus notes, and then we're going to talk some NFL as we're loaded wise guys here in 2024. And
because
so great to have you with us.
We can just talk Puka all day long. But so
Women's basketball is 10-6. They are 0-3 in the Big 12. Dropped their first big conference games at TCU and home against Oklahoma. Should have won the Oklahoma game. Didn't play very well. And Iowa State just had too much size.
Yeah.
Lauren Gustin got her 70th career double-double against the Cyclones. 70th, 7-0 for Lauren Gustin. But here's the thing, and I've watched this team now close for these 3 conference games. They got to get size. They got to get size move. They got guards. They've got guards coming in. But Iowa State and Oklahoma,
they're young and crazy talented on the guard line.
Yeah.
And they're going to just get better because those players are going to get experience. They got to have more bigs in this league.
And they thought they had some coming that it didn't work out. They didn't at school. So Amber Whiting in June had that problem solved.
Yeah.
But the team that started the season and now the team that exists now is a totally different team. There's no Mackie Williams. She's out with the knee injury.
Right.
Nani Fauatea quit. And a couple of big kids didn't
qualify or didn't come.
So now you got a different team, and you got young kids out there. And bless Lauren Gustin's heart. She stayed at BYU for this one last blast. She gets double teamed. She gets hacked, but she gets rebounds.
She still is the most elite rebounder in the country.
Still fighting.
So this week they're at Houston on Wednesday. 6 p.m. Mountain Time. That's on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio. And then Cincinnati at home on Saturday, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. That one's on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio as well.
As for a future recruit, Delaney Gibb, remember she was on Wise Guys
Right.
today. She announced one of the top players in Canada. Well, her team came down, Raymond High School came down on a Utah tour, and they played a few local teams here in Utah County, one of which was against American Fork. Mm-hmm. So I had a chance to go over and talk to Delaney and her dad, who's the head coach, Alan Gibb. And we talked for just a few minutes before the game, and she said she can't wait to get here.
Yeah.
She wishes she was here right now.
You saw her against American Fork, right? What was that like?
She had at least 40 points.
He's something special, isn't she?
You know what? My niece, Callie Cundy, had 25. So they were going back and forth.
Wow.
But Delaney's on a different level, and she sees the floor spectacularly. And it was fun to watch, and it was fun to see. It was fun. The whole coaching staff was there to support her, and she's going to be
BYU's
big time.
guard line. They have an elite level guard line in this league, and they're just young. But I'm with you, man. They got to go out and get some bigs, and maybe a transfer portal big or two. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Men's volleyball, they're still number 9 the second week of the poll, 2-0. You know what? They are a fun. I watched the matches over at least the Friday match, because they were going head to head with our basketball game Saturday. They got some guys, and I'll tell you, they hit that ball so hard.
They always think they can win a national championship every year, and they may. They're that good. This week they're at Loyola Chicago, who's a very good program. Thursday, January 11th. At Lewis on Saturday. Lewis also a top program in the country. Next home match is Monday, January 22nd against Princeton, and that'll be on BYU TV.
Yeah, BYU. Remember, men's volleyball is on BYU TV because men's volleyball is not in the Big 12.
Next Monday, you already mentioned this, but Sean Olmsted will be in here with us.
Yeah, he's looking forward to coming back.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll love having Sean.
And he's got a fun team to talk about.
Yeah.
Softball practice begins tomorrow.
Yeah.
Even with the snow. January 9th, practice begins. Their season opener is a little earlier than baseball. They're February 8th. They're going to Hawaii to play 5 games.
They're in Manoa.
Missouri, Kansas City is who they'll open with over there in Paradise, and then they'll stay and play 4 more games.
And I also offered our services to go cover that if somebody would pay for it. I told them just expenses is all we asked.
Just expenses.
Yep.
The home opener, which is also the Big 12 opener, isn't until March 7th. So they're going to play a lot of games on the road in warm climates before they come up here, and let's hope for good weather.
Yeah, and that complex, the softball, baseball complex, Larry Miller Park here is phenomenal. So great home environment. Coach Gordon Eakin will join the Wise Guys on January 29th.
Yeah,
So
it's
we'll
fun
have him
having these
back
guys back on. We've been on the air now long enough for coaches to make their
return appearance. Which
and they're
is
all
great.
happy about it, which we love.
Yeah, and we got Trent in for the first time today. We had to do it via Zoom last time, but Gordon came in with us last year.
Yeah.
So.
And we're excited to have him coming back.
Yep.
We say hello to the Panhandle of Kansas. Weston, thanks for watching the Wise Guys. Thanks for everybody on our stream and watching us live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. WiseGuys.com, the podcast, of course.
And if you're hearing this on the podcast later in the week, we're grateful for that as well.
Notable Cougars in the NFL. The regular season is over.
The most notable.
Let's talk about some of these guys. And number 1 would be Puka Nacua.
How awesome was that? NFL rookie record for receptions, 105. Receiving yards, 1,486. He's battling Houston C.J. Stroud for Rookie of the Year award. He's been invited to the Pro Bowl. So. What a season for Puka Nacua. Awesome. And I love that Sean McVay, is it Sean McVay? Yeah. As soon as he got the catch to break the second record,
get him out.
He was like, great, good for him. Get him out of there. Like, he does not want him hurt because they're in the playoffs.
I don't think he's going to win the Rookie of the Year award, although he's justified. But C.J. Stroud's gotten the Texans in the playoffs,
yeah, but you know what? So
and
what?
Quarterbacks are always favored.
Yeah, and guess what? C.J. Stroud didn't break the rookie quarterback record.
No, he did not.
Not even close.
No, but you know the bias for quarterbacks.
It's terribly biased. Puka Nacua should be the offensive rookie of the year.
We'll see what happens. It would be awesome if he did.
The one record stood for 60 years.
Yeah, I know. I'm all for it, but I have a feeling, and listening to the announcers over the weekend from
C.J. Stroud,
Rookie of the Year. Look, he's got.
And I'm a quarterback, and I usually side on the side of quarterbacks, but not on this one.
Tyler Algier had over 1,000 yards last year. He had to share carries with the Texas running back that they picked up. But Algier still finished with 659 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. He had 1 receiving touchdown, which I think was a 70-yarder. So 5 total touchdowns for Algier in his second year.
I was just watching his highlights from Sunday. He was just out there trucking fools. And like what I love is he's just a quiet guy. He ran to the sideline and trucked a guy and then didn't say anything, just got up. But his wide receiver was taken back by it, and he walked over and got in the guy's face and told him a little bit about it.
It was the second.
In Tyler's behalf, he went over and talked smack in the guy's face like, you just got trucked. It was awesome.
Taysom Hill, what a year. 6 of 11 for 83 yards passing and a touchdown. He rushed 75 times for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. Should have rushed for 150. Saints should have been in the playoffs. He caught 29 passes for 263 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he had 2 tackles on special teams.
Nobody does what
That's amazing.
Taysom Hill does.
What we just read is literally amazing for an NFL football
And we keep saying this, but he's a freak among freaks. It's a league.
I'm telling you, he's going in the Hall of Fame.
Full of freakish athletes, and he's the freakish of the freaks.
Yeah.
Which is saying something. And, people talk about, well, Gavin and I were having this conversation, my son Gavin. He was saying, people talk about Tim Tebow. Oh, this is what Tim Tebow could have been. No, he couldn't.
No.
Tim Tebow's not anywhere close to Taysom Hill in terms of speed. Tim Tebow's a big, strong dude that was a good athlete. He is not. He can't touch Taysom Hill's speed. End of story. No, he can't.
Saints got a winning record. They missed the playoffs just by a game because the Packers won. And that was too bad. I was cheering against the Packers for that very reason. But solid season for Taysom. Gets out of it healthy. All these guys getting out of it healthy for the most part.
Michael Davis, 62 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and an interception this season for the Chargers. And Kyle Van Noy, just joined. He told us earlier in the year on the show, my whole goal is not to be in camp, so I don't have to go through that nonsense.
He called his shot.
I'm a veteran. I'm just going to join a team in progress, which he did. 9 sacks. Which is his career record for a season. So it's the best sacking season, which he didn't join until the season had already started. 2 forced fumbles in 14 games. What a season for Kyle Van
And
Noy.
I'll tell you this.
And we love having Kyle on the show.
The Ravens, is there a team that's going to beat the Ravens in the Super Bowl? And Kyle can get his 3rd Super Bowl ring this season.
They're playing the best football in the league right now. It's crazy how hot they are right now.
And I can't name their running back, but their quarterback's a stud. They lost their big tight end, but they still find ways to win. And their defense is tough, and Van Noy's having a blast.
Yeah, and another great BYU linebacker who's largely considered the best linebacker in the National Football League, Fred Warner, 132 tackles again this year, 6 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. Just a typical Fred Warner year. That may be the only team that can match up with the Ravens if they kind of get hot here in the playoffs. The Niners have a chance.
They do, and it'll be on Purdy. He's got to stay healthy. Remember, he got hurt last year, and then they had nothing.
Yep.
But that could be a classic battle of Ravens and 49ers. Sione Takitaki with the Browns, 66 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception.
He's really established himself.
They're in the playoffs. We'll talk about that in a moment. And Zach Wilson, the good news for Zach,
thank goodness,
is a story that Deseret News reported. Shout out to Linda in Colorado. Thanks for watching the Wise Guys. Good to have you with us. Deseret News broke about a month ago that word got out that the Jets had already told Zach, hey, we're going to trade you at the end of the season. Thank goodness.
Oh, get him out of there.
And then they reaffirmed it Saturday or Sunday.
Jets, JETS stands for death for quarterbacks. I don't know what the acronym, but it's death for quarterbacks.
And, and Aaron Rodgers is going to go back there next year. And
good luck, Aaron.
Good luck with that. Where do you think Zach should go?
People are talking about the Vikings, which is interesting because they have Jaron Hall there.
He could go anywhere as a backup. He could go to the Dolphins as a backup.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him in a system that has an offensive line. So I'd avoid the Vikings at all costs.
Go to a good team and sit in there. Pull a Steve Young, for heaven's sakes. Steve was with the Bucs. They were awful at the time.
Come to the 49ers.
And here the Bucs are the last couple of years are great again, but they were awful when Steve was there. He was running for his life. And then he goes to the Niners and he backs up Joe Montana, the legend.
He didn't like it.
Then he becomes the legend because he had a chance to learn.
He got a chance to do it.
And so I'd be all for Zach going to an established program that wins. Hey, I'd be okay with the Ravens, although they have a young quarterback.
Yeah.
I'd rather.
And they're paying him like $1 billion. So there may be someone other than the Ravens.
I'd rather have him go someplace with an older quarterback.
Yeah. How it was supposed to be. Aaron Rodgers was going to be his tutor.
But
you
I'm
can't
talking
stay
about
now.
a good team with a relatively older quarterback.
Just Zach, before you sign with anyone, say I'd like to meet with the offensive line.
Yeah, or I'd like to actually have one.
Do you have one?
Because
I'd like to see them.
The Jets. It's a bunch of guys impersonating offensive linemen because they don't have an offensive line. So
Cougars in the playoffs, which start this weekend. Fred Warner's got a bye, so they're going to hang out. But Saturday, a couple of Cougs.
Yeah, the Browns are in playoffs against the Texans, so Sione Takitaki will be in that one.
Good for the Browns.
Yeah, Dolphins at the Chiefs, so Andy Reid back in the playoffs, of course.
How about the Browns? They're playing with their fourth quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? Then they just bring in Flacco like a month and a half ago.
Now, there's a quarter.
And they're just winning.
There's an older guy that, how about the Browns?
Go to Cleveland?
Yeah.
Well, Watson at some point is supposed to come back.
He's going to come back. Yeah.
But
so
I'll tell you, Flacco's the story, and he's got him to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't they beat the Texans?
Yeah. And then Sunday, the Packers with Zane Anderson are at the Cowboys.
I had to check the stats to make sure Zane was still on there.
Yeah,
he's still there.
And then the Rams with who other than Puka Nacua at the Lions.
I'm not a Rams fan, but I think the Rams could get to the Super Bowl.
I watch them just because of Puka.
Yeah.
I wasn't a Rams fan, but I watched them because of Puka.
You got Kupp and you got Puka, and then you got the running back who's really good, and then Stafford's playing great. And the defense is good. The Rams could be the wild card team that makes it to the Super Bowl.
They're good up front on defense. They're dynamic on offense. Stafford's a veteran guy that's been there. Yeah, the Rams could be the surprise team. That's your dark horse. I like that choice.
And, a lot of folks would say, well, what about the Lions? Kind of doing the same thing with what they got going on.
They're the Lions.
But that's a game I'm really interested to watch is Sunday, the Rams and the Lions.
Yeah, it's a wild card weekend. It'll be a fun one.
All right, let's roll out on this day as we sit live on the Wise Guys, January 8th. A lot of things that affected a lot of us in different ways, especially sports fans, happened on this day. So let's start our rollout, and let's go to 1790. This is not a sporting event.
Yes, but President George Washington delivered the first State of the Union address. I'm assuming it was in New York City.
Could have been, and we've seen one ever since.
Yeah, because remember, he was inaugurated on the steps of the Federal Building on Wall Street because the Capitol was in New York. That was before it was all negotiated by Alexander Hamilton with Jefferson and that whole group from Virginia to move it to Washington, D.C. if they'd sign off on his financial deal. So
he could have been there or could have been out at what?
So we do art and
What's
history.
What's this place, out Mount Vernon?
We do art and history on this show. Yeah, they moved it
there.
down. He made a deal. Alexander Hamilton made a backroom deal with the folks from Virginia, Thomas Jefferson in particular, that if they'd support his financial system that he wanted to put in place, that he'd make sure that they moved the capital down to Virginia, down to Washington, D.C.
Major League Baseball could use Alexander Hamilton as a commissioner.
They
get some things done.
He could get something done. So, 1835, the U.S. national debt is zero for the first and only time.
Zero. That means we owe nothing.
Today we owe $33 trillion, just in case you were wondering.
Zero.
If you wonder what the tote board's up to today, it's up to $33 trillion.
It's trending in the wrong direction.
Yes, it is. Zero on this day in 1835.
On this day in 1945, Kentucky sets the NCAA record by beating Arkansas State in basketball, 75-6.
That's terrible.
75-6. Makes you wonder how they gave up the 6.
Yeah, why couldn't they shut them out? Unbelievable.
That would be something. But this was something.
1962, Jack Nicklaus turns pro and finishes tied for 15th at the Los Angeles Open. Or 50th, sorry. Tied for 50th on his first pro tournament.
Worked out for him.
Yeah.
Some guys turn pro and it doesn't work out.
It worked out okay for Jack.
1972 on this day, the NCAA announces that freshmen can start playing on teams. Couldn't play before.
That's right. Freshmen had to just go to school.
So that changed the game because now freshmen play 1 year and then they go in the NFL.
Yeah, they go play. 1984, the NCAA expands the NCAA tournament to 64 teams.
And at the time, we're like, wow, 64, that's awesome. It went from 32 to 64, I think.
Now it's 68 because you have the play-in.
Now 68.
Yeah, 68.
And some people are talking about they should expand it further.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think 68's
enough.
It's like the bowl season. If you're not one of the 100 teams playing in a bowl, you probably don't deserve it.
College football playoff next year is going to 12.
That'll be good.
And it should be 16. Why is it not 16?
I don't know. Just because they're old-fashioned and it took so much teeth
Hey, I'm
pulling to get
happy
to
to
12?
I'd happy to have it. Here's the thing. If it was 12, we might not have Washington and Michigan playing a national championship game right now because Oregon may have snuck in there, or Ohio State may have gotten it done. Like, who knows? Or Georgia.
Georgia. You know what? Georgia would be there.
I think Georgia would be in the if it was 12, Georgia would be in the national championship game today. I think they would have won the national championship. They dominated in that bowl game.
Yeah, they killed.
And they made Florida State. They just said, Florida State, shut up and quit saying you're supposed to be in this thing.
Yeah. Where are your guys?
Florida State hasn't peeped a bit since then. Have you noticed that?
No, nor should they.
Yeah.
Birthdays on this day, January 8th, 1935, Elvis.
That's all you need to say. Elvis. And we're not talking about Elvis Costello.
No, just Elvis.
Just Elvis. 1947, David Bowie.
1957, Dwight Clark, who made the catch
That's right.
to lead the 49ers past the Cowboys in the 1981 NFC Championship game. Yeah. And as a Cowboy fan, I was so bugged.
Yeah, it was great. Joe Montana, he just held it, he pumped, and then threw it to Dwight Clark.
I swore he'd stepped out of bounds, but he didn't.
Deaths on January 8th. In 1324, and by the way, I saw a bunch of buildings that were built in 1324. And I saw some buildings built in 12. Like, I'm not kidding, 12.
They're just built in 12?
12.
All right.
So 2,000-year-old buildings when I was in Italy this week. But Marco
That sounds
Polo,
like my student apartment at BYU.
Marco Polo, the great explorer, was born or died on this date in 1324.
And now every pool game, Marco
Polo,
there
right.
it is. 1642, Galileo was passed away on this day.
Yeah. And then in 1825, Eli Whitney, the inventor of the cotton gin, revolutionized the way we
You got
process.
a cotton shirt on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Changed the world.
Changed the world, the cotton gin. 1941, Robert Baden-Powell of the Boy Scout movement passed away.
1941. Wow.
Our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week comes from Elvis Presley.
Of course it does.
Born on this day in 1935.
Here's what Elvis said. He said, I ain't no saint, but I've tried never to do anything that would hurt my family or offend God. I figure all any kid needs is hope and the feeling he or she belongs. If I could do or say anything that would give some kid that feeling, I would believe I had contributed something to the world.
Elvis Presley.
Thank you very much.
I think he was terribly underappreciated, even though generations know who he is. But you read and learn a little bit about him away from stage, and
he was inherently a good person.
That quote, I think, right there says a lot about him.
So,
thank Jonathan Tavernari and BYU baseball coach Trent Pratt for being with us on the Wise Guys tonight.
Next week, we've got Eric Mika coming in and volleyball coach Sean Olmstead.
I'm going to be on BYU Sports Nation the rest of the week.
There you go. Who are you
BYU
co-hosting
TV.
with this week?
Jerem.
Oh, you and Jerem.
Spencer's out of town.
Have fun there.
So I'll see you tomorrow morning. And by the way, the podcast will be up tomorrow. Share it with your friends. Tell your friends. We love Monday nights. We're going to stay on Monday nights forever.
Yep.
Big things ahead for us and a super, super month ahead.
We got it. It's going to be fun.
It's great to be in 2024. It's great to be in the Big 12. And we heard from a coach tonight who is just about to march in the baseball season. And it's just refreshing, isn't it?
It's fun. It's fun stuff.
It's not easy.
Some great programs will be coming in here for all of these winter and spring sports, and it's fun.
See you next week.
See you next week.